with me about cultivating healthy partnerships. I know that so many of our young social innovators could benefit from the wisdom that you have acquired over a decade or more of Taking It Global's sort of evolution and development, and as well working within a space where you seek out collaborations and partnerships with others. So my first question to you is, why are partnerships so integral to the success of social ventures?
Okay, well, thanks, Kristle. I would say that partnerships are the basis for creating the greatest social impact. And ultimately, a social venture is trying to create an impact in the world. Mm-hmm. And if you are embarking on something new, you want to build on what already exists. So you want to have not only a scan of what's out there, but to have a model that is complementary and not duplicative of other organizations that are already established. And if anything, there are so many creative ways where you can match up what you want to do or what you are doing so that you can reach more people, so that you can learn from what already exists and ultimately have a greater impact.
Excellent. Yes, I absolutely agree, and I think that particularly when you're starting out, it's so important to understand who else is working in the same space, what are they doing, what best practices have they developed, what kinds of innovative ideas have they come up with, and build and strengthen and contribute to that. And I think that's where the partnership concept really comes into play. So what would you say are the key ingredients to cultivating healthy partnerships?
Well, I would say trust is really a first place to start. Right. To go in with the spirit of being trustworthy yourself, being someone who, if you make a promise, are you someone who keeps your promises?
Right.
And also to make sure that expectations are sort of clear and well managed. There are a few frameworks that I sort of like to think about. Ultimately, when you're going into a partnership, you want to think about the value exchange. Okay. So if we look at, for example, our project or our venture, we want the most value.
Right.
But the goal of a healthy partnership is to make sure that you're also giving the most value so that there's a high value for the partner. So the sweet spot is really where both there's high value for you and your venture and high value for your partner.
Yeah, and that's an excellent point, because I think sometimes when we go into proactively seeking out partnerships, we really think about it from our perspective and not necessarily from that value added space for the other partner that we're considering. And so you're right, there has to be that mutual benefit there. There has to be that mutual value. So it's a very good point, and I think it also helps our young social innovators put themselves in their prospective partner's shoes. What are they looking for? And that's a great thing to do. So to help our young social innovators think a little bit more from that perspective, the perspective of the partner as opposed to themselves and what's in it for them, I'm wondering if you could share how you go about assessing the fit within the context of Taking It Global and other programming and partnerships that exist, the fit of a partnership opportunity that's coming to the table. How do you assess the fit?
Well, and I think that's a good question for anyone to be able to ask and to say, what criteria do we have? And to make sure that there is some sort of criteria in place. So for us, as a mission-based organization, we ask, is this aligned with our vision and with our mission and with our values? At a very broad level. And then at a more practical level, we're asking other types of questions. I actually have something else to share.
Okay.
So part of it is also assessing levels of commitment. Okay. So are we going into this partnership with a high level of commitment? It's going to take us a lot of time and a lot of money and resources to pull this off.
Right.
And if so, is it just on us, or are we both putting in a high level of commitment? Is it a shared commitment, or is it a low level commitment? So are we saying we want to help each other out. Okay, let's agree to do a link exchange.
Okay.
But then we want to think not just about the amount of time that we're expending, but also what resources is this generating.
Right.
Maybe through our joint effort, we're actually generating, if it's a fee for service, it could be revenue, or what other kind of value are we generating through, you know, the work that we're putting into it.
Right.
So we assess the commitment of what we have to give, but also what will it generate at the end for all. Both social and also looking at the financial aspect as well to see if it would be sustainable. And the other thing we really think about, and it kind of relates to levels of commitment, it's how proactive or reactive are we? And it's based on the initial engagement. So when I was starting out with Taking It Global, I was very proactive. I created these pitch presentations and I went to people and like, we would like to partner with you. And so a lot of the partnerships were based on the pitch itself. And what I found on that side of being the person to make a pitch is that people are looking at your reputation and your track record over time. So if you're trying to get a quick fix and getting someone to sign something really quickly, it's going to make some reaction to be very wary. On the collaborative side, it might be attending an event, and we're at a networking event together. We might have a coffee together, and so we're emerging, we're creating this idea together. And so the criteria is also how excited we may both be about working together, and that in itself may be a criteria. And the reactive side is sort of receiving a proposal for partnership. And so that's where the criteria may not be based on a relationship, but it's just based on sheer assessment of, is this simply a good fit with the strategy? So, I mean, I would recommend not having too many criteria, but essentially having at least 3 factors that you consider when deciding ultimately to take on a new partnership.
And I think the important thing to remember is that, you know, not all partnership opportunities are created equal, and it is an individual kind of case-by-case assessment. But it shouldn't just be assumed that if someone is coming to you with an opportunity, or that for that matter, if you're going to them with an opportunity, that it's an automatic yes. There has to be that fit there. There has to be that alignment, and there has to be that value. So I think it's a great point, and it's a really great bit of wisdom, I think. Any final thoughts that you would share with some of our young social innovators who, to be fair, are probably starting out on their very first partnership development or partnership endeavors, and maybe a little just lack the confidence to know how to proceed? What might you share with them?
Well, what I would have to share with you all who are venturing out with that lack of confidence is to focus on the first moment where you are rejected. Someone has said no. And focus on how that feels. And then move on. Because it sucks to have that sense of rejection, and it's not necessarily a rejection of you or your idea, but at that time, in that moment, it's an assessment of fit, ultimately, and that your track record over time may leave that very same person or that very same organization or company or whoever it may be coming back to you years later, just so excited to work with you on terms that you couldn't have ever dreamed of. And so don't get discouraged at that first or in those early first moments of rejection. Focus on the learning opportunity and focus on building a track record over time so that people are attracted to what you have to offer. And over time, I believe you have great chances of succeeding.
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that. That was amazing. And I know that our social innovators will be able to take these lessons that you've learned over time, and both the good, the bad, and the ugly, and be able to learn from that and integrate that into their own sort of next steps on their journey. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Kristle.